My name's Christopher Wilson, and this is the Aurora. I found the Aurora in roughly 2008, and one day I was searching on Craigslist, and there she was. So I was very curious. I just wanted to take the tour, and then kind of fell in love with it past that. And here we are today. It's a 1955 built German cruise ship. It was the first ship that Germany was permitted to build post World War II, and it's got a lot of history about it. And this is something that's become a passion to restore over the course of the last years. And we've done so many projects on board, and we've met so many people through this project. And she's come a long way, and she's still got a long way to go, but that's what we're fighting to do. We're fighting to actually save the ship and preserve it for future generations. And I think we've got a pretty good foothold on doing just that. Anyway, we're gonna go aboard the Aurora, and I'll show you around. It's kind of a big boat to show in a short video, but over time I think we'll be showing every piece of the boat and all of the projects that we're gonna do on board. And we have a lot of projects. So come on up. When we got the Aurora, it was completely filled full of stuff, and some of it was usable stuff, but just a lot of it was absolute garbage that we had to get rid of. So we had a small crew of maybe 5 or 6 people that we knew pretty well come over and help decipher what was what, and go through and take it all out to the deck. And these are our friends. So as we took it out, we would clear the room, and it actually, you could hear yourself echo in it a little bit more every time you pulled out some stuff. And every little bit that came out, you could just see the room transform back into the dining room that it used to be. Once we got everything out on each half, we would go over the floor and inspect it, and then roll paint onto the floor. A 2-part epoxy that actually has held up for quite a while so far. I think we're going to put some more coats on, but it started to look beautiful and shiny. This is the other half. It just the other half was painted, so we stacked all the chairs that we had over there, and we just went to work on the other half, trying to clean the floor the best that we could before we laid any paint onto it. And here it is, kind of complete. Looks amazing. So all the wood on the decks was completely destroyed, and it had like a membrane that sealed moisture in to help destroy all the wood even further. So when I pulled up all of the wood, so much moisture had made holes in the steel deck, electrolysis and whatnot, and everything had to come up. And this is us pulling off all of the wood, and underneath was like a leveling compound that we had to get rid of, along with some rust and scale. And then what we were left with was lots and lots of holes in the deck that were burrowed in by electrolysis. So it was a big job. It took months and months and months to do, and the entire deck is still not complete. We still have some areas that need work, but that's something that we work on every summer, a little piece at a time, because it's such a large job. It's fun to watch the stack kind of build up of all of the wood. And what wood we could save, we're using for the handrails, for all the missing parts of the handrails. The little stack of slag that you see developing on the right, that stack of slag became huge. It became like a small mountain. So we started in on the rails, trying to put them in exactly how they came out, welding little sections on at a time, replacing metal. It was a huge job, and we've got a lot of it done, but there's still some of it to do. And that's another thing that we work on every summer, trying to, bring the decks back to where they used to be. They were ugly. Everybody who came and looked at these decks said this job was almost an impossible job. We would never be able to fix these decks. We would never be able to deal with them. And I would like to think that we proved them wrong. We actually removed all of the rust and scale and made a bunch of patches for the little holes. And to this day, 95% of the deck doesn't leak. It's actually a beautiful deck now. Around the house, the water would seep in and it would create rust on the base plate. So I had to cut out steel and weld the steel onto the base plate in order to, recreate it. And that stopped a lot of the water intrusion, but it also looks great when it's finished. It takes quite a while. We've only got maybe a fourth of the house complete on the base plate. We put a little bit of filler in to make it look pretty. That's not to seal it, it's just to make it look a little bit better once we sand it off and paint over it. It's almost ready to paint. And this is a coat of gray marine paint that held up really well, and it stopped immediately all of the water intrusion, and it looked like it did when the ship was new. This was one of my favorite projects. It's the lower entry, and it had looked like this for many years. Like, it had a concrete floor that was deteriorated. The ceiling was mixed-match tiles. This used to be a little gift shop when the Aurora was a cruise ship. And underneath had random wiring, network cables, just a bunch of junk for wires underneath. So we pulled out the unused wires and disposed of them. And we started working on the floor and the ceiling at the same time. And once we actually completed that task of laying the carpet and putting in the new floor, we were able to start working on more sections like the walls. And it turned out spectacular, and it took a few months to actually complete this, but to this day it still looks brand new. Check this out. Come back next time for a tour of the boat. This is going to be a pretty good tour this time.